Well, after the priest incident, you kinda hardened up,
Yeah.
and you started getting into organized crime, and I guess you started going with your dad while, he was kinda distributing all the payoffs and the bribes.
Well, yeah, you're 100% right. Well, when I start after that, and I think that was the trigger. I didn't give a fuck. I had a very hard attitude inside. Now, here I am, a young little kid. I started what the first thing I started doing was bookmaking, which is I used to do the football tickets. I used to go door to door with families and the teacher and the sanitation worker and the telephone worker, work for back then, I think it was Ma Bell, back in New York. And I'd go to their door and say, here, would you like a football ticket? And they pick three teams, they put $1, they win five. Whatever, they put $5, they win $15. It's and they have, and then they have if you pick four teams, you win $10. So I become a bookie, and one of the families, one of the guys was a kid, a mobster's son who was like 19 at the time, 20 or whatever he was. I ended up working for him, and I was getting 25 cents on the dollar, Vlad. So in 1972, I'm making $125 a week. Cash money. I mean, that's a
Mm.
kid. What the fuck you? And I'm seeing this. And I lived in a mobster area. I said, wow, I'm making money. And what, it was so funny because we blew the money. We gambled in the streets. We used to play AC Doocy with pots with $50, $100 in it. We're fucking kids. So what do? We rob a store. Who's robbing? We'd rob the path mark. We put a path mark. What people don't understand, path mark, I don't know where they're from. If you're from the South, it's Publix and Winn-Dixie's and all that. Well, up north, they had Pathmark, Safeways, and we put a Pathmark out of business. We had some guys that worked in it. We're bringing seafood and steaks out the back door, putting it in near the dumpsters, and we'd take it that night in cars, and we'd go sell it up and down the avenue to other people. It was something crazy, and it's like wow, and we're making money. We're kids. We were all hustlers, though. Whether it was then started robbing cars and I was getting $500 a car. And we came up with great ways to rob cars. People would in New York would leave their car started in the morning to heat it up. And they'd go in and get their coffee and would get ready for work. And you'd see the exhaust, the heat coming out of the exhaust. We drive by in the car. We know the car is just waiting there. We jump in the car, take off. By the time the guy comes out, the car's gone for 10 minutes. And we got the car. We take it to a chop shop. We didn't give a shit. What $500? Boom, $500. And the chop shop was near a golf course in the Bronx called Pelham and Split Rock. People who know that are gonna holy shit, they remember that area. So, and we were making money, and then money was always coming in, and there was a dead end there. Obviously, I went into service at 17 years old, and when I went into service, I had to have my parents' permission. And I was heading down the wrong paths, everything else, getting in trouble, getting arrested for juvie shit. Nothing major, but juvie shit. And all of a sudden, it's go to the service or you're going to go to jail. So what do? You go into service. 17 years old, I got one of the highest scores on the ASVAB, and I ended up joining the Coast Guard. And that's where I saw a lot of stuff with death and a lot of stuff, picking up bodies. And I was on major disasters, the Freedom Flotilla with the Cubans. But when I got out, even though in the Coast Guard, Vlad, I gotta bring this up. Stole weed. We stole bales of weed. We put them under the fucking catwalks. And I bought my first car. I was fucking 18 years old. I bought a Mercury Grand Marquis. This big fucking car and this little kid. And because we took bales of weed, and they used to try to float weed in to the country. So this is on the west coast of Florida in Sarasota area, Bradenton. It's that area, and they were floating in the Gulf of Mexico. They're trying to float it in. So we come upon 80 bales of weed floating, 80, just below the sea line. They float. So we pick them up, call it in. Where news is waiting on the dock, but on the way in, we put 3 bales under the catwalk on a low bridge. We used to have to go under. We put the fucking weed up there. Come in, we're heroes. We go back with even the Coast Guard morale boat. We'd take that back. We'd get our weed, and, sell it real quick and make money. I mean, it was just the way we did it. And we were always thinking. And then when I got even higher rank in the Coast Guard, I was stationed in Hawaii. I used to have to buy all the rope and paint and all this shit for the ship, I would send it back to the bar. Literally send it back to the bar in New York. And because have the government send it. I don't know what they thought, but it was just a wild time back in those days. And then when I got out, because I got hurt in the service, and after I got out, I ended up right back into the crime. I had all my connections. I started muscling for a card game and a dice game, and that was crazy. It was like a full casino down in Queens, New York, down below Luke's Piano Lounge in the basement. And it was like, holy shit, this is like really it was like like a casino. And I was muscle for that. And then I learned that business, and then I brought back up, learned bookmaking. I used to be behind the stick, taking the $1,000 bet. It's called a dime. Take a nickel's 500. And I worked for a guy, Vlad, Mac the bookie. He's the biggest bookie in New York City. He used to take what they call the layoff action. The layoff action is if you're a bookie, your goal is to get 100 grand on this team, and the Jets are playing the Giants. You want 100 grand on the Giants and 100 grand on the Jets. You know why? You get 10%. You don't give a fuck who wins. You make 10 grand. Now do that by every game, or $1 million. $1 million on this team, $1 million on this team. You make 100 grand. You don't give a fuck who wins. So that's what a real bookie does. Well, what does a bookie do if they get all their players betting the Giants, and now they got 200,000 here and only 50,000 here? What do? If they don't lay it off, they become a gambler. And if that team loses or wins, they're going to get smacked. So they used to lay it off to this guy. It was a Jewish guy named Mac. I worked for him. And he used to take the layoff action for all the bookies in New York City. They said when he died that the economy went down. He had so much money in bags. But he was a great guy, and he taught me the business very well. And then I ended up going on my own with that and getting into the robberies and doing a setup. We can get into all you want today. This can go on forever with me,
Yeah. Well, I guess around that time, you became a Gambino crime family associate. And Paul Castellano was the boss during that time?
Actually, right when he gets killed in 85, that's exactly when it was. And the reason everyone thinks, why do you want to do that shit? I don't give a fuck about them, but you need their protection. Because if you don't have the protection, another family's going to snatch you off the street, torture you, get your money, do whatever. You're not protected in any way. In New York City, you needed to be protected back then. And if you're not protected, they're gonna take you. I was a cowboy. Now, the people above me made a lot of money. My bosses made a lot of money. And yes, Castellano, then he gets killed by Gotti. Everybody knew, but didn't know, and then the power struggles come. And actually, my boss liked Paul, but you got to fall in line, so to speak. I don't give a shit. I was so down. I was just an associate. I was a guy that needed the power behind me so I don't get kidnapped or fucking taken off the street and then they torture me and get my money and stuff. I'm making a lot of money at this point. I'm whacking down 2 or 3 stores, making 2, 3, 400 grand a pop. So I had so much money. I started buying nightclubs, buying vending machine companies, loan sharking, built a clubhouse, bought my own limousine, had a driver, warehouse, homes, horses, boats. But as people always say, you're always searching for something, I don't know if that's true. Money, they always say, money don't buy happiness. It's true, but it sure makes misery a hell of a lot fucking better. I'll tell you that. So anybody says money, it's hard for telling a young person today, hey, you don't need that. It ain't going to make you happy. Fuck you. It ain't going to make you happy is what I would say. Give me fucking $10 million. See how happy I am. We'll figure that out.
Well, you're a Gambino associate. Was there ever a chance of you becoming a made man, or is it, I don't know if are you Italian or did you have some sort of bloodline connection? So, okay, you were just an outsider.
No, I could have never been. I'm not Italian. But what happens is I had more power than a lot of people, even made guys, because I was making money. They call you an earner. I was making a lot of money for a lot of people. And when you can do that, it's all bullshit after that. First of all, You know, I love that omerta. You know, look at them all. They're all fucking snitching on who's snitching. It means nothing. It's a sad the way it is. You know, but the mob movies portray it all bullshit. You know, The Godfather. Love the movie. Everybody loves the movie. They don't take care of you when you go to prison. They don't do all the bullshit. Not only that, they were fucking shaking down their own people. You know, I mean, it's not like, oh, they're great people. They're giving loans at 300% to their own people. Come over here into the fucking country. So it's not like, oh, we're great people. Oh, nice. We're going to help you out. Help you out. They're fucking burying you until they take over your business. You know, I get the romanticizing of it and stuff, but it's all about money, Vlad. It's all about money.